I went to the Locked On Auburn Discord and asked the guys there, like I mentioned earlier, over just about 800 people there. I was like, "Hey, I'm starting this new segment on the show. I need some thoughts of what you think is more likely. Like, give me a hypothetical here for Auburn football in 2022." So I've got some. Start here at the top. What is more likely, a home upset of Penn State or Texas A&M? This comes from the Masked Tiger One. So we asked, what's more likely? Auburn upsets Penn State at home, or they upset Texas A&M at home? Well, let's take a look at these two teams first. Texas A&M 8-4, 4-4 in the SEC last season, I believe. They are 84th nationally in returning production, so they lose quite a bit on both sides of the ball. 61% of their production returns on the offensive side, 62% returns on the, 61% on the offensive, 62% on the defensive side. That's good for 76th and 91st nationally, respectively. The Aggies took a step back in 2021, but they lost a lot on the offensive line. And also, their quarterback, 2 games into the season against Colorado, broke his leg. And then Zach Calzada had to come in to just kind of repair the situation. Did not succeed as well as I thought he would, given some of the skill position players surrounding him. But again, the offensive line was kind of a work in progress last season. And I'll say this about Texas A&M heading into this year. I mean, they've still got a couple of pieces. They've still got a couple pieces on the offensive side of the ball, right? But their defense, which was their strength last season, they're going to have to do some patchwork there. And then not only that, their defensive coordinator, Mike Elko, really, really solid coach, left and is now at Duke. So you look at some of the guys that beat Auburn last season. Zach Calzada, Isaiah Spiller, Jalen Weidermeyer. I mean, all 3 of those guys are gone. Seth Small, who hit 4 out of 5 field goals against the Tigers, he's gone as well. Obviously, they'll be able to replace the production. Like, it's either going to be Max Johnson or they've got this incoming freshman quarterback. I forget his name, but they've got a pocket passer coming in. I cannot remember his name. I'd have to go look it up. But they've got options at quarterback. But the running back that ran for over 100 yards last season against the Tigers is gone. Their defensive line is going to need some patchwork. They need a new DC. And then I'll also, just talking about outside of players that beat Auburn, just what in general beat Auburn. And a lot of it was Auburn shooting themselves in the foot. It was bad reads occasionally by Bo Nix missing touchdowns or missing open throws to continue a drive. It was late turnovers in the game. It was an awful ground game. Auburn averaging 2.5 yards per carry on the ground. The offensive line couldn't really get a lot of push. It was a good Texas A&M defense, but Auburn just could not get it done. Tank Bixby was having a hard time seeing the holes that day. It was really, really bad run stopping against an average offensive line. Texas A&M ran for over 210 yards. And then Auburn also just got thrashed in total yards period, 226 to 409. 226 to 409. And the thing is that Auburn held A&M out of the end zone, I believe, because they got 4 field goals, and then they got the late touchdown off of that Bo Nix fumble, or was it an interception? I don't remember. But I think that you look ahead to this season, I think Auburn is going to have a very legitimate shot to beat A&M for a couple of reasons. Well, first, Zach Calzada is here. If he's able to get the start, I'm sure he knows a little bit about their system. I'm sure he's played against their defense a little bit in practice before. Sure he knows. I'm sure he's got an idea of what's up. So I think that's an advantage for Auburn. And then also Auburn's going to have the home environment, which is great. And then also I think Auburn is a year older on the offensive line. They're a little bit more experienced. You know, A&M's trying to figure out some things. Although the issue is the game's late in the season. So I'm sure both these teams will have things figured out at that point. But I will say, I think Auburn's got a much more legitimate shot to beat A&M than they did last season. And I would be confident in picking them to win that game right now. I'd have to do a little bit more research to just kind of feel good about it. But if we were doing preseason projections, I would lean towards Auburn at home. Of course, let's not get it twisted. A&M's bringing in, I think it is the most talented recruiting class of all time. So certainly they'll be having some freshmen that we don't even really know the names of yet contributing for them this season. So that's going to be a factor as well. But I would like Auburn's chances in that game. But you look at Penn State, because there's a question, what's more likely, a home upset of Penn State or Texas A&M? Penn State won 7 games last season. I'm not going to trash Phil Steele more than I did yesterday. And this was not necessarily a shot at Steele. I think he's really, really good at what he does. Like, really, really good at what he does. It's just that he projected Penn State to be the comeback team of 2021. And then they went like 7-6, I believe, 7-5. And Penn State 72nd nationally in returning production. They bring back 64% overall. 71% of their offensive production returns, and then 57% of their defensive production returns. Sean Clifford, though, has been in college for about 20 years now, a.k.a. Dan Marino. If you go back and watch the Auburn film, he's back. 5-star quarterback, though, Drew Aller, or Lar. I don't know how to pronounce his last name because I'm an idiot. He's waiting in the wings, probably going to be battling with Sean Clifford for that quarterback spot. I would like to think that Penn State gets like 2 or 3 games into the season, right about that time that Auburn game rolls around, and Clifford's playing so poorly that they bench him for Drew Aller. We don't know what's going to happen at the quarterback spot, though. I will say this: Jahan Dotson's gone. Parker Washington is back, had over 800 receiving yards for the Nittany Lions last season. Noah Cain is back. He was playing in that Auburn game. That rushing attack for Penn State was relatively ineffective against the Tigers. Brenton Strange, the tight end, I believe he scored on a wildcat look against Auburn in that whiteout game last year. He's going to be back. So Sean Clifford's got some skill position guys to work with, even though Jahan Dotson is gone. But the problem with Penn State this season, it is very similar to their problem last season. And quite honestly, it's similar to the problem that they had in 2020. This is a 3-year ordeal now, is their trenches, specifically the offensive line, are just not very good. And they're experiencing turmoil and turnover on both sides of the ball. It's going to be a problem for them. And I think that this is why the Penn State game is more favorable for the Tigers. Is this game is early in the season. It's 3 games in. And I'm going to go pull up Penn State's schedule because I believe they play Purdue. I believe they play Purdue to begin the season. And you got to think about the situation that they'll be coming into. So they play Purdue at home. Or no, they go on the road to Purdue. Then they play at home against Ohio. Then they go to Auburn. And Purdue is no slouch. I know a lot of people want to make fun of the program because it's not a great football program. But I mean, they had some interesting upsets last season. It's a good team. It's a team that knows how to score some points as well. For a Penn State defense that is trying to replace the lot, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens in week 1 at Purdue. What does Penn State do against the Boilermakers? And then what is their mentality heading into this Auburn game? Are they ready to take on Auburn in Jordan-Hare Stadium? I think it'll be interesting. You also have to look at where Auburn's going to be at that point. They're going to have played Mercer and I believe San Jose State. So if we're talking about situation here, I think that I know that Auburn's got some issues at quarterback, but look, you get 2 games against 2 relatively easy opponents. At least they are on paper. You like to think that they're easy. So let's assume for the sake of argument that they are going to be easy opponents. You're going to be able to slowly develop your quarterback. You're going to be able to get them to kind of dip their toes into the water a little bit, kind of get comfortable in the system. You don't have to show a whole lot either in those 2 games, and then you'll be ready for Penn State. I think that because it's early in the season and because I trust A&M's defense more than I do Penn State's, I would say that it's more likely that Auburn gets a home upset of Penn State than Texas A&M. But I'll also say this. I do like Auburn's chances against both those teams this year. I mean, especially if quarterback play gets figured out, because there were so many moments down the stretch for Auburn. It's like, if you just make that throw in the Houston game, if you just make this throw against South Carolina, if you just make this throw against Texas A&M, like the season could have radically been different. Of course, it ended the way it is. So we have to discuss the consequences, right? There's just a lot of what ifs for me last season. And I think that better quarterback play in tight situations is going to really benefit Auburn this season. And I hope that they're able to find that good quarterback play. All right, another what is more likely question here. This one is from Forgu One Poo. It's a goated name. What is more likely? John Samuel Shenker gets more than six touchdown catches, or he gets less. Essentially what he's asking here is, John Samuel Shenker, 6 touchdown catches over under. And I'm going to say under. And I don't necessarily, this is not a hot take or anything. It's just you go look at John Samuel Shenker's career. He's got 2 touchdown catches during his 4 seasons with the Tigers so far. He hasn't had a touchdown catch since 2019. And I think that he is going to be able to get a couple of receiving touchdowns this season. He should have had a couple last year. But my thing with the tight end room is I think that Shenker is going to get his catches. I think he's going to get his touches, but the room as a whole, I think, is going to get significantly more involved. I mean, even last season they were involved. I think 3 different guys caught a touchdown pass: Landon King, Luke Deal, Tyler Fromm. But yeah, Landon King, like I mentioned, and then John Samuel Shenker, I think, are going to be 2 guys to look out for. And then don't forget Deal and Fromm. They're still there. I think they're going to be able to make a little noise as well. So I think the room as a whole, I think there's an opportunity for it to get to 6 touchdown passes. And so I'll say under. I think it's more likely that Shenker gets less than 6 touchdown catches. You also have to think about here who's throwing him the ball, right? And we don't know who that's going to be yet. And so I think that may change my opinion a little bit as well. We can get into that another day, though. So yeah, I'm going to go under. All right, third question here. What is more likely? Auburn's leading receiver is already on the team, or he's currently on another team / in the transfer portal. And this one comes from Wonderbeer. I believe that's how you pronounce his name in the Locked On Auburn Discord. I'm going to say that while I do hope he's currently in the portal, I'm still going to say he's on the roster. I'm going to say it's more likely Auburn's leading receiver is already on the team. Auburn whiffed on Arkansas State transfer Cory Rucker. Rucker announced his commitment to South Carolina just a few days ago. And to be quite honest with you, I don't really see another name in the portal out there that really catches my eye. And until somebody enters the portal that I think Auburn could create some interest with, I'm not confident in saying that at some point this offseason, Auburn can make a move that could dramatically impact this receiving core to the point where it would be that lead guy. Zach Blackerby, the Locked On Auburn podcast, was talking about this, I believe, on today's episode. If you'll want to go catch that. He was talking about, it was like, I don't know where Auburn's outside receiver production is going to come from. Is it going to be Shedrick Jackson? Well, statistically, he actually works better whenever you throw the ball to him in the middle of the field. Is it going to be Malcolm Johnson Jr.? We see a little bit of Cory Rucker and Malcolm Johnson Jr. Could he be somebody that steps up? We're going to have to figure that out. We're going to have to figure out who is that outside guy. Since Seth Williams left, Auburn's not really had a guy that can go up and get a ball or be a vertical threat down the sideline. And so again, I would lean towards, I don't think Auburn's going to be able to pick up somebody in the transfer portal that will be a significant piece. Because again, nobody's out there right now. And I just don't know if Auburn would be, if there was a significant piece to emerge, I don't have the confidence that Auburn would be able to pick him up. And you may trash me for saying you don't trust Harsin, you don't trust. It's just, that's my opinion. I've gotten to see Cory Rucker already slip through our fingers. But I will say I've got confidence in some of the guys on roster. I like Jay Fair. I really like Malcolm Johnson Jr. I'm trusting in Shedrick Jackson to improve. Javarius Johnson is another guy. And then, like I mentioned, the tight ends. This is going to be a pass-catching group by committee. It's going to be so many different guys getting touches. I don't think we're going to see somebody be like a true breakout leader. See, I'm going to say it's more likely Auburn's leading receiver in 2022 is currently on roster. All right. This is the final one, and this was that one actually that I included, that I came up with. And we'll talk about this actually. We're going to do, during our live show on Friday, we put out a round table with all the writers over at auburndaily.com every Friday, but we're also going to do a live version discussing our opinion on the different questions. And one of the questions for the round table this week is going to be, what is more likely? Auburn starts 1 quarterback or 2 this season. And I wanted to talk about it today because I already had it written down in my notes. I think that Auburn's going to start 1 quarterback this season, and I'm going to base my answer on hope. I hope that whoever starts against Mercer is healthy and good enough to actually keep the job for the entire season. Whether that be TJ Finley, whether it be Zach Calzada, whether it be Robbie Ashford, somehow, if it's Holden Garner, I would accept that as well. Just whoever gets the job, hold on to it. Because I'm really getting tired of the turmoil at QB. I just want to be able to see somebody that will progress and will play well and will be here for a couple of years. I want some continuity at that position and some more consistency. So I'm gonna say, just base it on hope and want, that Auburn has only one starting quarterback this season. Of course, you can't really account for injury, but what you can account for is guys potentially sucking. And so when you look at the quarterbacks on roster, I would say that, and people may hate me for this, there's opportunity for one guy to go out there to be trotted out there week 1, and by week 5, he's probably not going to be your answer. People kind of figured that out. There's definitely opportunity for that on this roster. I can see in every single situation, whether it be Ashford, Garner, Finley, or Calzada, whoever steps out there, I can definitely see a world where you get on just about halfway into the year, and it's just like, yeah, I think we need to switch up. I think we need to change our option at QB. And I think that I think that that's possible, but just out of hope, I'm hoping that that doesn't happen. I hope the guy that gets it is good enough to be able to just take the reins and run with it. And if that happens, I think that Auburn's in for a good season, because it's not like they don't have depth at QB. It's a 4-man race right now. Technically, you could probably call it a 3-man race. I don't know how involved Garner is, or Gerner, I don't know how to pronounce his name either. Bad with names. But yeah, think I don't think that depth is an issue with this room, and I think that if one guy is taken out, then you know what, we can supplant him with a guy that could potentially perform better. And I genuinely believe that this is not a TJ Finley Bo Nix situation. This is a TJ Finley, Calzada, Robbie Ashford situation.